So Dmitry, tell me frankly, have you sponsored in any way the corona pandemics? Because it seems that I know you've created the project a few years before, but it seems you kind of anticipated something happening, because it's just probably the perfect time for, uniting the yoga community, which is really getting global now. Like, obviously you did not, but did you envision that need for international real collaboration happening, or was there any other idea behind creating the Yogis Without Borders?
Well, the main idea is, canceling the borders between people. There are no borders actually between the minds. There are no borders between the hearts.
What made you believe that they were, or who did believe they were?
That's the main thing. Actually, the start of the project was in 2014 when the brawl in the Donetsk region broke out in Ukraine, and I saw as the yoga community was divided and
Between Russians and Ukrainians?
Between the pro-separatists and the pro-Ukrainians, and that was very ugly to see, because just yesterday these people were going to the same class, and tomorrow they say horrible things about each other. Yeah, so I think this is really un-yogical. Yeah, it's very. I mean, these people haven't understood something about yoga. And then the next step was when I was traveling between the yoga conferences. I was in Moscow. I was in Europe, and between people there were also this discussion and emotional discussion. And inside of the yoga community, and there were people pro something and pro something. I mean, this is fine when people have different opinions, but they were very negative to each other, and they're very emotional. And I thought,
Where is yoga?
Yeah, where is yoga, and this is the borders that I'm talking about. And the worst thing about this, it had a next wave, and my friends in Europe, from Ukraine, they were saying that when we have a class and the Russian people, the Russian guys or the Russian students, they won't go into a class of a Ukrainian yoga teacher, and the other way around, the Ukrainian yoga practitioners wouldn't go to a Russian yoga teacher.
Still.
Yeah, no, it was back then,
okay.
in 2014, 15, and and after one wave, second wave, the third wave, and more statistics.
You felt it was enough.
Yeah, I was. I decided to make something. Making. I came out with this idea, and I would want to say that this is. I want to say that people can practice yoga no matter which language they speak. And that was the worst thing about this thing. Both of them speak Russian, for example, and just one was born in Ukraine and the other was born on the other side of the border.
Which is the ex-USSR anyway.
And about 10 years ago it was one big country. So the main idea was to bring this idea out and say that there is yoga, and no matter what nationality you are, what language you speak, no matter what background you have or what kind of sex you have, you can do yoga, and it really all does not matter. Or if it matters, you have to do yoga to somehow rethink these things and live in a big world and a nice world and speak to people and nicely and be open to other people and so on.
That's how it started.
Yeah.
I think that's very, altruistic idea in a way, and knowing you and your passion for maintaining the tradition, that's, I think, a very probably accurate move to maintain the basic yogic values, if you like, and principles in terms of ahimsa and many others. That's great. However, we are now in 2021 and the world had changed again. The war is kind of frozen there. There are a lot of different conflicts in different countries. So I'm 100% sure this sentiment should be maintained, keep on going, think about Armenia, Azerbaijan, like our region is rich in history, unfortunately, in that way. So that line is there. However, going forward in this dynamic changing world, where do you see this project, these principles in, let's say, 10 years from now? What's your, mission, let's say, in a long-term strategy, how you would see it evolving going forward?
Well, yeah, I was thinking about this question and more than once and for a long time now. And it always changes. The vision of the future of Yogis Without Borders is always changing, and even now, when we every day is something new happening, things change all the time. So I decided in the last, my thinking, meditating on this topic, I decided not, just do my thing.
What's your core thing in this project?
Yeah, core thing is bringing the yogic ideas out and teaching people. That's pretty much it. So I teach my team members, the Yogis Without Borders, the instructors. I teach students. I teach my teachers to teach other students. So I think after 10 years, we'll be doing the same thing. The things will change, so we will somehow, change also. But pretty much we'll be doing this.
Do you see any ways of inviting other teachers, representatives from other schools and traditions to join the platform? If yes, in what way? How do you perceive this happening through the conferences, through the joint projects or collaborations, going, as a visiting teacher, mixing the students? What kind of ideas you have in your mind?
The yogic world is pretty, it's big. And many things happening all the time.
Right.
I'm not sure how the yoga conferences will be.
Well, good question.
Will be how they will change in the near future, because nowadays it's they're all cancelled or went online, but it's usually not popular online actually. Even this idea of yoga conference has to change also. But we have friends abroad. We have friends in Ukraine. There's always
In Dubai.
In Dubai, of course. Actually, when I was giving a class in Dubai, the lecture, there were other yoga instructors. So I think of a big communication, a big, talking about things and discussing things, and in discussion many ideas crystallize and we understand ourselves better. So in this way I prefer to think of the future of communication between different yogis as for self-acknowledging and self-awareness. Yeah, so we bring our ideas and do our thing very good. And if these ideas will be valuable to people, they can share them. If they have their own ideas and we can understand something about ourselves with these ideas, we will, rethink ourselves and grow spiritually, communicating with these ideas. So this is pretty much how I see it.
So it's like a melting pot of ideas in a way.
Yes, for sure.
That's what I love. That's why I travel and change the country after country. Let's shift the gears a bit and talk about where all of these beautiful ideas and the principles you share and I gladly support are coming from. Let's talk about where it all started. And so the question is, for those of our listeners who don't know, I'll explain a bit. How could that happen, that the biggest, the oldest, the most authentic yoga school in the whole, I would say, CIS region, let's say kind of Eastern European region, is based in Ukraine, where we all come from, where our teacher is coming from, and kind of the core of the Yogis Without Borders team came from, like from this lineage and tradition. Why? How could that happen? Is it some sort of an echo of the, post-Soviet closed borders, where the best things were cooking and developing in this isolation, and get so thirsty for this, transformation and spirituality between the closed borders and the kind of, rejections and being literally prohibited. Was it that part that it became so strong and just, grew so exponentially, or some other reasons? What's your view of that?
I think the main ideas you already shared that right now, yeah. But to be honest, I don't know. I don't know how it, why so many things happening in Ukraine, with the esoterics and yoga. Of course, I think the Soviet Iron Wall helped esoterics in,
and the borders are closing now, so
yes,
let's
I think we'll get back to that. Yeah, with the Iron Wall of the USSR, with the prohibition, the yoga was prohibited in Ukraine.
The criminal offense was there if you were practicing yoga.
Even
you really were. You had to be serious about it. You couldn't just, give
you
it
could
a
go
try.
to jail just for having some book of Iyengar, or the Bihar schools books. Yeah, so when you have this ban on yoga, you really have to be willing.
Dedicate.
Yeah, you have to be dedicated. You have to be willing doing yoga. So my teachers always, when I asked them, because for a long time I was very fascinated with the history of yoga, and one of the main, parts of the history of yoga is the USSR history of yoga. Yeah, the history of yoga in the USSR. I have a couple of articles about this. I asked all, my teachers who practiced back then, how did you do it? How was the yoga back then?
Where did you get this knowledge from?
Yeah,
right?
Where did you get this knowledge from? How what's the history of tradition, the parampara, thing? How can you learn something that is prohibited? Where do you find these people? Where do you find books? Yeah. So this is very, and I think I have to make more, because I know more than I have written about this. Yeah. So this is really the very interesting topic. And there are stories, how somebody would just go and give a lecture on yoga, knowing that there is a KGB agent in the group.
Class.
Yeah, and you have to talk about yoga, but talking in some kind of language that the yoga students would understand. But the KGB,
not the KGB guy.
And the KGB agent wouldn't know what they're talking about.
The KGB guy is kind of CIS, special security thingies.
FBI and so on.
CIA, yeah.
Yeah, but in the it's not pretty much the CIA or FBI, because these organizations live in a democratic, they operate in a democratic society, but the KGB was a very totalitarian. So they had a lot of fun.
Let's put it this way.
Yeah, and they had practices like somebody would have to faint, so that it's a big topic. And
I think the next book is coming. I feel it developing.
Yeah. But the best thing about this, we're on the new age edge. It's the 21st century. It's the 2021. Many things actually. All teachers are living, this world, and I think as yoga teachers nowadays, we have to push forward and bring the voices of my teachers. We have to bring it forward and talk about it and teach it and give lectures also. Now we can do almost anything.
Yeah, there is no excuses anymore.
Yeah, there is no more. Before you could say, I'll go to jail, I won't teach yoga, but now you can't say that.
Wow, fascinating story.
Yeah. So maybe this is, of course, this prohibition was really a strong force to develop new techniques without the books. You have to practice and learn about yourself without some knowledge coming from books or from internet. And
That's
from
in a
some,
way what the ancient yogis were doing in
yeah,
India
yeah,
by
yeah.
just the empirical observations.
Yeah. And there were also, gatherings in the apartments, in the kitchens, when people would discuss things, and it was very, they would really were very motivated. Yeah, you wouldn't do it if you weren't motivated.
Well, I can't just, sorry, but I just can't keep on seeing the new kind of similarities: kitchen, closed environments, home gatherings. Interesting how the history in a way replicates
Yeah.
itself due to absolutely different reasons, but we'll see how it impacts the yoga evolvement itself as well. Maybe it will indeed become more, kind of enclosed into close, intimate circles.
Well, I think actually I can look at my experience in
Yes.
2020. I've worked a lot. We've learned many new things about the online teaching. I finished my book in 2020 because I had enough time. I haven't traveled. I was traveling only inside of Ukraine. I visited things that I wanted to visit since my childhood, and now I had the time to do that. I visit my home places. I spend a lot of times with a lot of time with my relatives. I wasn't busy, traveling and doing things concerning yoga. So actually, this the iron thing, the iron wall thing, is pushed the new behavior and new things and
Discipline in a way. Our
Yeah.
yoga teacher is about to release his new book as well, which
Yeah.
is thanks to Corona to a certain extent, because
Yeah.
otherwise, as you just said, it's so many other things of travel and teaching abroad, conferences, and yeah, who knows? Maybe we all needed a little break to get things done.
We saved a little time by not going somewhere and doing it online over the video conference. So this little time we saved could time and energy, we could use it for new things.
Yeah. Brilliantly said. Whoever needs a motivation how to stay positive in these times, please watch this video. And the most positive yoga instructor with the brightest overview on the future of yoga, Dmitry Danilov. Now, talking about the history, we touched upon that, and I think the new book about the history of Soviet yoga and how it all started is really kind of already in demand. But talking about the future, where we are going to, and not many people know that Ukrainian Federation of Yoga, about which we were just talking, which started behind these closed curtains, is the only member of the European Union of Yoga, the full member, and the European Union of Yoga is the most reputable, prestigious international organization, which is maintaining the very high level of demanding standards of what yoga is and what's yoga not, or not only. For example, just to give you an idea, similar to our view, you cannot become a yoga teacher after 200 hours of training. Maybe after 3 to 5 years minimum. If you really work hard, you have your supervisor, senior yoga teacher, after passing all the tests and the exams and qualifications, you might be ready. So we are a proud member of this organization. So my question to you, Dmitry, is the next one. You've been there to Zinal, which is the annual conference of the European Union of Yoga, where all these international teachers across all the Europe come together. You spoke to your Western colleagues. I believe you also gave some lectures there. What's next year then? What's planned anyway? What's your feel? As a newcomer, kind of, we are relatively new to this organization for the last year. So, what's your feel of the Western yoga? Of where is it now in terms of its development? Is the Western esoterics actively alive there now? What was your impression, of someone who was kind of raised and developed in this part of the Eastern Europe and with the post-Soviet kind of background and this kind of very big school behind you? what was your take on the Western yoga? How did you feel that first interaction?
Well, this is of course our meeting in Zenal and this coming into this great and very old organization is a big step for the Ukrainian Federation of Yoga. As for what kind of, for the feeling of this organization, it's nice to speak to people who have been doing for so many years. Because we can, publicly, without the ban.
Different circumstances.
Yeah. So they went through some crisis that we haven't yet, maybe.
Which one exactly?
Well, I spoke to many colleagues, and the yoga in the West is not the same in all over the West. Yeah, the West is what do we mean when we say the West? Like, for example, when I speak to Romanian guys, they have a problem with religion there, with the Orthodox, and it's not a problem, but you have to acknowledge this thing. Yeah, it's a cultural thing in Romania. Or when I speak to, for example, the French people, the yoga there is different. And I see it as a learning experience, communicating, explaining what we have, what they have, this kind of a melting pot of ideas and this interchange of ideas. I think we can teach them some things.
What exactly?
And they can teach us. That's how I see it.
That's exactly what my next question is about. What kind of ideas, and let's put it this way, transformational ideas of yoga, which is, Yogis Without Borders is all about, in a way, are most important in your view to bring to this two-way cooperation process? What's vital to raise now, to discuss, to make public, to maybe ask those uncomfortable questions or raise those difficult discussions? Maybe not difficult, but important.
At the moment, I think we're on the point of talking about the way the yoga should be presented, the instruments. It's not even the ideas, the big ideas. Mm-hmm. At the moment, it's more like yoga in Ukraine is very fast. We're developing very fast. We're, using all the instruments we can.
Maybe because we're so thirsty, right? We have to catch up.
We have to catch up, and we in this state for many years. Yeah, we always look and we understand that tomorrow it can be prohibited, for example. Yeah, so this is the certain feel of yoga that we have here in Ukraine. And in the West, for example, in the Western countries, because Romania is also a post-Soviet, had a post-Soviet influence. But the Western countries like France, like Switzerland, Britain, Netherlands, and so on, they are more static. The feel that I get from my colleagues from these countries, it's like today we do this, tomorrow we'll be also doing this, and there is the time is goes very. I mean, it's also fast. They do a lot, but they don't really think of the world as tomorrow it can be all prohibited and everything will just stop and end, and you have to always be feeling what's going on. What you have to change all the time, all the time. You have to look into how we can change today to make it better tomorrow, or how do we have to communicate with our government, so that yoga will be not prohibited tomorrow, or we have to always watch out. So we're a little bit more active in a certain way.
Wow, that's a very important observation. Before moving to Dubai, I spent around 5 years in the Netherlands in this very liberal environment. So I pretty much relate to what you say. It's absolutely different worldview and feeling of life out there. However, I think right now with things changing so much and many things getting prohibited in liberal Europe, the gatherings, the curfew about imposed, I think it will be changing anyway.
Yes, it will be changing. Although, this is a very interesting topic. I had a, once I had a trip and I had a class of yoga in Athens. And just, coming as a student, I was just traveling and I want, to see many yoga studios and many yoga teachers.
That's coming back to the recommendation. Keep on exploring and trying new things.
Yeah, and for example, I go to a class in Athens and we sit, we talk, we drink tea, then we go and breathe a little bit, then we talk again. Then
during the class?
Yeah,
wow.
During the class. And then I leave Athens, I go to Düsseldorf. And I go to a class in Düsseldorf, and I have there's this forceful yoga. We stand a lot, very many poses standing, not laying, not sitting. It's very dynamic. It's very forceful. You have to have a strong body to do like this handstand pose and stuff like that. And it's totally different. And if you would have something like that in Athens, I think the
people
group
will run away.
Yeah, the people would run away. So the yoga in the West is very different from country to country, because the cultures in each country is different, and this is the best part about yoga. It's different everywhere, although it has pretty much the same practices. Mm-hmm. But these practices make yoga as something very dynamic, because in this country we have to teach people this to somehow first we have to teach people something that would help them in their environment. On the other hand, we have to include this environment, because otherwise people will not understand you.
Yeah.
They won't relate to what you're talking about. So this is yoga. It can be different in many places, although it's pretty much the same. That's the best part about yoga. It's always there was a conference, a scientific conference on yoga in probably 2016, if I'm not mistaken, in Krakow.
I was there as well.
Yeah.
With you.
And I loved its name. No.
Yoga and Transformation, which was
but
Vienna, probably
that
the
was
year
Vienna.
before.
That was the 2013 in Vienna, and this really is my understanding of yoga.
Yoga in transformation.
Yoga in transformation. It's always transforming. So in 2021, going back to what we talked about before, it will change and it will be different. It's not the same yoga as it was before, although it stands on the shoulders of its ancestors.
Thousands of years of tradition, which are adapting and evolving with the needs of humanity, if you will. That's why we do it.
Yoga is not something static. It will change with the change of the people who practice it.
But in a way, that's the main requirement for anyone who is stepping on this path. Unless you evolve yourself, you will not be able to practice, because that's the main idea, the transformation.
Yeah.
Beautiful.